Welcome everybody. Welcome to this first event of Pro Cashew. My name is Jean-François Gay. I'm the chief of party of this project. It's a new project, just started in December 2019, and will be there for until September 2024. So who are we? We're CNFA. It's a NGO based in Washington. Since 1985, they are doing specialized consulting and project management in agriculture. They manage more than $600 million of project, and they worked in 45 countries, a little bit all over the world. I would like to say that even if it's an NGO, it's a private-minded structure, organization that is promoting the private sector. So the CEO was a farmer itself. So here is a little bit the global reach. As you can see, we are in a couple of countries in West Africa, and it's I think growing. The CNFA is winning a good share of the proposal that they are bidding. So no, I'm sorry. All right. So here you go. You have a little bit of what the CNFA is doing. It really started and specialized in agriculture inputs and services, mainly the fertilizers and agro dealers. So the host is asking me to open up my screen. So here we go. This is me. I hope you see me. There's a window behind. Okay. And yeah, so this is a little bit about CNFA. So really, let's start with what is this new project, West Africa Cashew Project. So the name is mainly has a signification for three. Let me move my screen up. Yeah, all right. I'm sorry. All right, there we go. So we're talking about the promotion of the West Africa cashew, the pro cashew, and then we are talking about the professionalization of the West Africa cashew industry, and we would like to have a proactive participation of all the stakeholders. So this is a little bit the mission at a glance. The project itself will be $23 million and will be 5 years. We're hoping to increase productivity on the value chain and strengthening the capacities of cooperative and producer organization. We would like to put an emphasis on rehabilitation and renovation of orchard, nursery system, input suppliers. There will be a big emphasis on data collection and dissemination systems. So we would like and hope to, with the government and National Cashew Association, ACA and GIZ ComCashew, develop regional data platform where different kind of stakeholder could access different level of information that would help for the policy across West Africa. And of course, we would like to expand the trade of the cashew product, and it's mostly done with better quality and added value that we would like to see. Now it's mostly it's more a production project, and USDA just released a new project and probably will start next year that will be focused on the processing cashew factories. So what we're doing ourselves is working with the farmers, and that will link with the processing factory, increase trade. So expected impact, we're thinking about 10% average increase in the yield of the cashew production. We would like to see 100 million of value of sales of those partners working with us, and then about 27,500 metric ton of cashew sold. So touching and working with about 74,000 farmers across 5 countries. So mainly we will be in Côte d'Ivoire, Benin, Ghana, Nigeria, and Burkina Faso. Yeah. So there's an important aspect of all the work that we will do is to increase access to market. So there's the trade there, and then improve planting material, renovation and rehabilitation of farms, and with all the governments to improve the enabling environment. So we have strategic objectives. First of is the capacity building. So this is a little bit what this grant is all about, is building the capacity of farmer organization and improving the relationship with the processing factories that they are called broadly agri-food companies here, including the processing factory and the exporters that are already working in close relationship with the farmer through corporate social responsibility program or other means. This grant will have a grant program, and for inputs, equipment, and technical assistance. We will come back later more in detail on that. Eventually, we will start a program to develop agro-dealers and input supplies and specialized service provider that will help the farmers to do their pruning and prepare their orchard for the campaign. This then there's the integrated data system development. So we would like to call the product multi-country cashew data management system, Cashew In. And this will be done with all the stakeholders, with steering committees in each country. It will be mostly starting next year. So we'll have from all this database and all this information, we'll support public information campaign, and we'll push all this data and information through the system, and that will help. And also based on that, we will develop policies and white paper to support a better, more integrated regional framework. So we will work with 2 main partners, Tree Global, that is in Ghana, that some of you probably knows. They are specialized in planting material, and they are mostly providing trees to the cocoa sector, but they started on the cashew also. And then we have Development Gateway. It's a US-based company, and they're specialized in data management. And they have a strong track record of working with projects and donors to develop these kinds of regional platforms. So we were happy to have them on board. And then we have our strategic partner, ACA, that is hosting this event. Thank you, my friends. and then the GIZ come Cashew. And then we have our PX that they are working on the monetization. And after that, in each country, we will be mostly working with the Ministry of Agriculture and CCA and Côte d'Ivoire, and also all the national association of processors and farmers. So this is a little bit mostly who we'll be working with. So I'm trying to go a little bit fast, so that probably it's not everything that is interesting to all of you. So where we will work, we had this map of intervention initially, and it's open. Mostly these states and region in each country are mostly in the north areas where you have more cashew, and probably where you would need also more rehabilitation and innovation of the cashew plantations. And it's where most of the processing factories are buying their raw cashew nuts to process. So this is a little bit the link. So this year we're starting with 3 countries: Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana, and Nigeria. We're waiting to have next year Benin and Burkina Faso, and hopefully it's a smooth growing of the project. Yeah. Perhaps I could mention that as a USDA Food for Progress program, there will be a time to monetize rice in West Africa. And with these proceeds of rice, this is how the project will have the money will be funded and be capable to do its activities. So we're kind of a slow mood right now, but we should be up to speed by January, February 2021. So this first grant is only the first of other grants that are coming and other activities. So we will work with the whole range of value or the actors in the value chain, the input supplier, farmers, agri-food companies, financial service providers. We will work with the governments, those who are developing their warehouse receive systems, and microfinance institutions and local banks who want to support the partnership that we are putting in action, mostly linking the farmers with the processing factories. That will ease the access to finance eventually. A little bit of timeline. We started in December. We'll have in September, October, our kind of kickoff of the project with the launch, official launch, with the ambassador and things like that. And next year, so for us, second year is started in October. It means that in February, March, we're hiring people in Benin and Burkina Faso, and as we will open up other grants, they will be able to join and participate. Yeah. So October fiscal year of USA in 5 years will be the end of the project. Usually USDA, when they are satisfied with their project, they are adding time and or money. So we expect that we will be able to pursue a little bit longer. So of course, we're starting a little bit slow, but and we would like better to be. So we're facing everybody these constraints. And that's a little bit about it for this presentation, this introduction of the project, USDA, CNFA, and what is Pro-Cashew project. So I think I'll stop there, and Olivier, the program director, will follow up and do a second presentation that will be focused on specifically the grant. And there will be a third presentation on the process of the grant application. So Olivier is doing the grant, and I will do after that the application PowerPoint presentation. So let me.
Thank you very much, Jean. Thank you for the introduction to the project. The next presentation will be from the project director, who is going to explain to us more about the grant. Please, if you have a question or a need for clarification, kindly drop it in the chat. We are picking it up, and then we'll have a moment for Q&A. Olivier, please, are you ready?
Yes. Hello.
Yes, Olivier, I can hear you.
Okay, good. So let me get
We see you.
Okay, good. I'm now trying to display my
screen.
Yes. Okay. Give me a minute. Good. Is it okay? Hello?
Yes, I can see your presentation and I can hear you.
Okay, so I'm going ahead. Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Cashew Olivier, as I've been introduced. Project Director for the Pro-Cashew project. So I'm going to take you through the grant presentation of the project. So as you can see, this is a fund.
Olivier, just a moment. Can you speak without the headphone? We could hear you better without the headphone.
Hello. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to take you through the grant program to show you a little bit, give you first an overview. Then we will talk about the grants, the different type of grants that the project is making available, and the type of beneficiaries. We'll speak about the regulatory framework and code of ethics that are guiding through these grants. Talk about who is involved, and then as I've been said before, this year we are launching with the first type of grant, which is the agricultural extension grant. The three others will be launched later. So what will be the results and impacts that we are looking at by executing these grants, especially the agricultural extension one? Who can apply? Talk about eligible recipients, how to apply. We'll see the grants life cycle, and then the evaluation criteria to access to it. So Pro-Cashew is, through its grants, is want to leverage funds and through matching contribution of the private sector and also farmers, and as well through farmers organizations. So these grants will be given in kind or in fixed amount awards. And the objective here is to facilitate investments and increase stakeholders, partnership as well with farmers, and facilitate quality and quantity of cashew produced by farmers and linked to agro processors, so that processors will be happy getting good nuts in quantity, especially in West Africa, and farmers also could get better revenue by marketing their raw cashew nut. And the support is going to all stakeholder farmers, small, medium, and large as well. In terms of numbers for these grants, we are putting on the table about $2 million that will be attributed in kind and in cash. So our contribution to this matching these funds goes beyond 50% for some of them. And we are expecting around 30 grants overall to be allocated, going between $25,000 to $200,000 per grant. So the grant types are in 4. Here we have the agricultural extension grants with a maximum ceiling of $200,000, which match 1 and 1, means ProCashew brings up to $200,000 and the grantee can bring as a quarter or more. We are looking at 8 of them during the lifespan of the project, minimum 8 that will be given in cash or in kind. The second one, we are looking at about 10 of them, which is ORCAD renovation and rehabilitation grants. For these grants, the ProCashew is matching 1 to 2, mean ProCashew giving like up to $20,000. The grants will be given up to $40,000. And is meant for especially farmer organizations, nurseries, SMEs that are willing to get into producing high-performance seedlings. Then the third one, which cashew farm service equipment is meant for, we are expecting about 12, and that is to support farmer service providers, either to facilitate with renovation of cashew farms in rehabilitation, and also seedling distributors of the high seedling performance material that will be produced during the project support. Then the fourth one, that have to deal with climate resilience. The fund is going up to $50,000 with a ratio of 1 and 1. Let's say that the previous one, cashew farm service equipment, which is $25,000 maximum, ProCashew is taken up to 60% of matching. So the climate resilience grant is taking into account farmers and individuals or farmer organizations, SMEs, and agro-food companies. And that will be mainly to support with access to equipment, those who also innovate, who are innovating into climate change resilience into the cashew sector, but also thinking about data traceability from the farm to the processing factory and above will also be something that the project will encourage. Okay, now all these grants are regulated by different collection of regulation published on the, you can find them on the internet or even with the support of the project. So we have the Code of the Federal Regulations, CFR, which is one of them. Also the Foreign Agricultural Service project. So who also have different collection of terms and conditions that to be applicable. And we also have a CNFA code of ethics of conduct that will also be available, and also US government regulations. So all this can be made available or even on the internet. So who is involved in all this? We are talking about farmer organization, agro-food processing factories that will work into good agricultural practices, renovation, harvest and post-harvest, and business management with farmer organization. We are talking about research also, so researchers will be involved, and also extension, public sector institutions that to support with improved input supply models and services. We are also talking about governments working with us to put in place structures and also facilitating trade, having an enabling environment, donors, other projects of USDA, such as Benin Cashew in Benin, Lift, Cashew also as a partner. We're working with us. The Consultative International Cashew Council also is a partner, as well as the African Cashew Alliance that will be working on this all grant program. We are also thinking of public-private sector resources and mobilization. So then all public sector and private sector intervening in as stakeholders into the value chain will be supporting either through helping for a better supply chain or regional policy alignments to facilitate trade into the region. So this was an overall, an overview of the grant program as a whole. And here now, as we said, we are going to speak specifically about this first grants program we are launching, which is meant for agricultural extension in West Africa countries we selected. So this grant is mainly to support agro-food companies and farmers organization to facilitate a good production in terms of quality, quantity, marketing as well, but also to strengthen the linkages between farmers and agro-food processing factories, and by giving support to human resources as technical extension officers, those who want to reinforce their technical ability to better support the farmers, or even sometimes if they want to hire, train, and then put people on the fields to support the farmers, but also facilitate for the supply chain of raw cashew. These grants, we are budgeting up to $1.5 million overall for the lifespan of the project. The maximum grant we could allow to grant is $200,000. This will be the ceiling contribution of the fund of USDA, and we expect minimum of 8 grants to be allocated. And the matching here is ProCashew will bring at least 50% of the grants, and the grantee a minimum of 50% as well, talking about 20,000 K. Okay, by implementing these grants, we are expecting to reach out to some results and also have some impact Here are some of the indicators that we want to share with you, starting from improving access to finance. This will be one of the impact we want to see by supporting those grants. Then we'll also think of reducing transaction costs between farmers and processors, increasing yield per tree or per hectare. Of course, when the trees yields are increasing, the acreage also will see a significant change. Then all impacts that have to deal with quality. Here we talk the KOR, and we are talking of this in terms of measuring the volume of how, for instance, for a particular community, we can see the increase of KOR, which is like basically 48 for like 1,000 metric ton of 48 to, let's say, 1,005 metric ton of KOR, which reaches, for instance, 50 KOR. So that's this is an example of how we can see this impact on the field. Here also we want to see a much more linkage between farmers and processors. So direct linkages and direct sourcing of processors from farmers to be able to have long-term relationship between those two type of stakeholders. We are also thinking of number of adoptions of good practices by farmers that will be counted, so that we see how the farmers are technically assessed and how they apply what they know on the field. Traceability system will also be a good way to attract these funds and for us to see how things are moving on the field. Data collection projects, proposals, and also the number of jobs to be increased, especially at the farmer level. Here we were talking about farm service providers and all those stuff. So this can be also a way to see how farmer side jobs are being created. Of course, there is always space for grantees to also propose some like customs indicators, and that will also help them to foresee how they perform in their activities. Now that we have seen all this, who are the people that can access to this particular grant? So the eligible recipients first must be registered as national private enterprises in the 3 countries in which we are launching this first grant, which name Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, and Nigeria. They should, at least as agro food processing factories, be able to have at least 2,500 metric ton as a real processing capacity, and expandable to at least 5,000 metric ton capacity. And they should also be looking at be complying with food security, safety, and standards as ACCP, BRC, or ISO 22000. So the factories must comply with those standards. Then we also encourage, as we want to facilitate trade between Africa and US, as AGOA is doing. Here we also encourage factories that are in relationship with US buyers to also apply. Then they should be located in the targeted zone of the project. And also we want them to have a mission, a clear mission that's supporting farmers or having farmers as a key success of their enterprises. So farmer here is in the center of these grants as well. We're dealing with factories. Activities that we are willing to fund. So it goes from the cost of outsourced activities. Here is an example. If we think about supporting farmers or through extension service officers, could be activities like training of trainers in good practices. It could be harvest and post-harvest activities here, November, December, depending on some of the area of intervention. Business, B2B, so cashew farmers with processors. Climate change resilience, okay, this is something that will be starting in year 2, for instance. Then we have certification process standards and good agricultural practices. Okay, here August, that's are made around August and September each year in West Africa. And we will be funding also travels and cost of technical staff traveling to support these activities, and cost of research and dissemination of information as well will be funded through. So more information will be found in the files that we are going to share with you, find your idea about this type of activities. Now, how do we access to it and start implementing and up to the closeout? So first, we have the solicitation as we do now, and for people to join the grant program, and then the applications have to be followed. So I'm sure that just after this, those that are qualified will be applying. And those applications could be done through competition or sometime in exceptions when any stakeholder submit to us a proposal which is going in line with what we are financing. Then second point, we'll have evaluation step and then selection. So after we receive those applications, we'll evaluate them and then we'll go through a committee for selection. Then third, we'll have the grant award. And fourth, we'll have the grant implementation stage. So after awarding, we will go through signatory of the grants. But first, we'll be doing, let's say, due diligence assessments for those that we are willing to award the grants to. And then we'll go to a fifth stage where sometime we may have to do some modification based on what has been seen on the ground, or sometime we may have to suspend the grant because it's not complying with our rules, regulation, and code of ethics. Otherwise, the grantee will be supported to implement the grant, and then we'll have a closeout at the end of it. So by still doing monitoring and evaluation to those grantees' activities. So now, what will be the criteria on which we are going to evaluate the proposals? They are all under about 100 points score. And the first one will be a 20% evaluation according to the goals and the approach. So the project goal, the vision on how to implement it will be accounted for 10%. And the technical proposal also 10%. Then the second one will be the project impact, which accounts for 40%. So who are the beneficiaries? what quantity of metric tons are we talking of, like having impact on the KOR, the quality of the raw cashew nut, the sales that are going to be done. So all these informations and how we are going to tackle them. So we account for 25%. Other indicators that may be custom indicators, matches added will be counted by 15% of the overall. Then we have the budgets and the ratio. The grantee contribution ratio will be evaluated at 10%, and finance or management and record keeping of the grantee will count for 20%. So ability and experience of the grantees to their professional background, for instance, will be 5% accounted, and ability for executing similar activities will be also 5%. So overall 10% for ability and experience in the evaluation criteria. Okay, so this is basically what I had to share with you in terms of what can capture your attention and very important for you to know. But also I want to add that after these online presentations of the grants that we'll have after Ghana, the next one will be Nigeria. We'll be doing online follow-up and answer sessions so that the applicants could come back to us, and then we can still discuss. Hello? We can still talk about the questions that they have to ask. Then we will be available to receive written questions up to 17 July through the email grant@cnfa-procashew.org, and applications that will be receiving electronically through the same email address will be received until 31st of July 2020 at 5 p.m. Universal Time. So basically, this is what I had to share with you. Thank you very much for your attention. Hello, Blessing.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
You're welcome.
So we'll move on to the application form, and sharing with us on how to go about applying is Femi. Femi, if you can hear me.
I'm not sure Femi is ready to work on that right now, so I think I'll do it.
Okay, Jean, please go ahead.
I'm trying to connect. So Olivier, you need to get out of the screen sharing.
Okay.
Haha, now you're talking.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. So let me do the from beginning. All right. So really, we introduced the project, we introduced the grant, and if you remember well, there will be 4 types of grant, and what Olivier described is only one grant, and it's the extension grant. So it's really the supply chain linkages of the processing factory, which is in fact the farmer organization, the cooperatives, the farmers group, the villages that are selling to the processing factory. So what we're looking for is a processing factory that are already or willing to establish a long-term relationship with the farmers. So meaning that instead of just coming to the collection point and provide the quality or lower quality and get reduction in price, I get an agreement with the processing factory, and based on a better KOR and level of humidity, get premium price. So that's a little bit the added value that the farmer would be getting. And when the processing factories are getting this higher quality of product, it means that they will have a better output of the product at the end, and they will also make more money. So it's a win-win element, and that's the way a little bit we think that the West African can find its niche market in the world and process more nuts and get a better development of the value chain. So when you have that kind of partnership, then it means that farmers will have a better visibility on revenues of their farms, and then they will be able, after 1 year or two, to start, hey, I'm going to invest in my cashew farm because I have this partner that is there with me, and he's serious, and we're making good money, both of us. So that's a little bit the idea. So now, how are we asking those processing factories and agro-food companies to come? It's mostly through this grant application that we will go through. In the questions or the chat, I put the link of the CNFA website, so you can go at the end of the page, and there's 3 files that you could download where you have the RFA, the request for application, you have the application template, and you have the annexes. So that's the way to do, please. So let's go to the grant application checklist, and then a little bit go through the application form. There's a cover letter, there will be the application form, there's a budget. We're matching what the processing factory or agrophone will do. So we need to see what they are bringing on the table, and then we're matching that up to 200,000. Then we need to have indicators. We're a project, and we need to have results. And finally, there will be all the registration documents as usual. So let's go directly to the application form, the guidelines in general. Well, we would like to mention that we try to minimize the burden and the complexity of the form. We eliminated some concept note, usually that you have in a grant, to only have the core structure of a grant application. So we don't want you to develop 50 pages. It's mostly straight to the point, and let us understand how you see, what's your vision, how you see it, and what will be your outcome. Yeah. So we have text boxes, tables that are used as template. It would be important that you refer to them and you develop them well. Yeah. So there's the introduction of the project, title, area, duration, budget, characteristics. We want to know where you would like to work, with which farmer organizations, which villages, and understand if you already did some work before. Are you already working in or doing a partnership with an organization that's already having multiple other partnerships, or you're entering into an agreement and you will be the only one players? Is it an exclusive or open partnership? Yeah. So are you alone in that? Or you're working with another organization to support you? Usually, if it's a large processing factory, you will already establish your own collection centers with a warehouse, with a staff, with people, and this is mainly what will be the budget. And then we will have our trainings and support to enhance what you're already doing. So we would like to see 2-3 objectives of what you're starting or already started. And well, in project management, we have these SMART objectives: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So simply develop a RCN sourcing program for X number of farmer organization areas to generate X thousand metric ton in the first year, up to we're hoping that this program will be for 3 years. We would like to be in partnership with a processing factory that is developing a long-term relationship with the farmers and the cooperatives. So we're thinking that below 3 years, it's difficult to change the culture and the way of doing business. So if we do a first year trainings, the second year it will be easier, better, and adoption of practices, agricultural best practices will be easier due to this relationship and long-term commitment. So this is a little bit what we're thinking. So we're starting this season that are starting with the pruning and orchard management in August. So this is how we're counting a little bit the 3 years. So at the end, for a processing factory, and it's better KOR, it's better count of nut, it's a better humidity level. So all of these factors as a project we will support, but we will complement what the agri-food will do company. So as a usual proposal, we have the approach, activity timeline, roles, and we're thinking that they will be extension agents. So we should all work through them and not duplicate a new training firm or company to support, but everything is possible. What are the result and success factors? Who will be managing the team? What's the risk and mitigation strategy? Activity table. So this is a bit big and could be fearful, with all these points, but it should be just for you to think through and provide a couple of ideas and to make sure that we know rapidly that these points are covered. It's not a long process. It should not take you too long to develop this proposal. And we're coming to the indicator tables, and you could understand that this is where we will be looking and putting in phases on how many farmers are you thinking to work with. So for us, it means how many farmers are we going to train, how many hectares harmony, the volume, the sales, so the yield of the cashew trees, the KOR, the quality, number of farmer organization, village. So all these indicators are very key and important. So this is what we were there for. So this is an important element of the proposal, and it's not necessarily the big numbers, but it has to be well thought and aligned with your strategy and size of the purchase program that you intend to do. Perhaps you would like to buy 50% of the raw cashew nut from your farmer organizations in year one, going to 75, or some other company would say, no, we want to limit ourselves to 50%. We want the cooperatives to be capable to sell to other buyers. So there's a way of a general possibility. So each company will develop its own strategy and targets. So you could understand that the baseline, it's mostly zero. What we put here as numbers, it means nothing. Each areas and region, country, you have your own baseline, and you probably already know, if you're working with the farmers, what kind of output they are providing. It has not to be very rigorous or super detailed. So we're going to take your number and we're going to work with them. Eventually, as part of our project, we will have to do a baseline study, and we're going to do interviews with a sampling of these farmers in the 3 countries, plus Benin and Burkina Faso. So we'll have also our own source of validation or baseline if you have difficulties or you're doing approximation or assumptions there because you don't have the full data. Monitoring, evaluation, and learning. These are the points where, again, you help us to understand where we are in terms of project, where we have these targets and how they are linked to the full proposal. So I don't want to say too much there. So here you go on the budget. You put the local currency. So now it's Ghana cedis. So we have the total cost, and then what you're looking from us, what you're putting on the table, and what if there's another partner is bringing the table. So that's the kind of overall 50-50 that we want to see. Then after that, there's a full detailed table where you will propose your budget. But at the end, we should see the 50-50. That's a little bit the minimum. So all these boxes are there to provide a little bit of information about who you are and what you want to do. So it's really to support you to develop the proposal. We would like to have additional documents. We would like to know a little bit who you are, and key balance sheet and earning statement numbers of the processing factories for last year, and potentially if projecting that over the future would be interesting to see what's your plan. Not just with our grant, but as a company, your growth and expansion of your company. Eventually, if there's a grant, it means that we will wire transfer information and money, so banking information. Who will be those working? So the CVs. We would like to have your registration documents and all the other information that you think are relevant. So that's a little bit where we are. So we're saying that by the end of this week, we would like to have written questions that we would answer rapidly, and then we would have online follow-up Q&A session. So the 21st, the 23rd, and 24th for each country. So then we would be capable to answer more general questions. But if you have question that you want to have by written, and that's part of the process, it's by this Friday. You have the email address of submission, and it's by the end of the month, 31st of July, 5 p.m. So that's about it. Please go through your Annex A and Annex B, where you have the budget, where you have the indicator table, all the indicators table. Sometimes to get the sales, you need to have the number of farmer, you need to have their average yield, you need to have their quantity that they're selling to you. So there's a couple of assumptions and information that needs to be there so that we could understand the number that you're putting in your indicators. So this is, we tried to develop a little bit, and please, if there's questions, well, we're there for that. Well, thank you very much. So let's do the Q&A session.
So we'll proceed with the Q&A section. We have the first question from, can you hear me?
Well, thank you very much. So let's do Q&A session.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but the participant, I was not.
Yes, we have one participant that wants to ask a question. Mr. Setakoto, please go ahead. Director, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, please go ahead and ask your question.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
And thanks for the presentation. It's very an insightful presentation. And I just want to have a quick question. First, you are talking about agriculture extension grant. But during the presentation by Olivier, he made mention about the eligibility criteria. The eligibility criteria, he said, is only meant for national private enterprise. But so far as I know, in most West African countries, extension is mostly delivered public sector institutions. So I want to find out whether there's a room for public sector institutions to also send an application for the extension grant. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Perhaps I'll jump in and answer right away your question. Well, let's say that in the second presentation, we presented the grant program in general, and we mentioned 4 types of grant. So in this one, it's only the grant for the extension program. So it's mostly targeted to the private companies. Well, it's private companies that are processing and selling to the market. So we don't see government running a processing factory. So the idea here is to mainly develop this business relationship between the farmers and the processing factories. So this one is mainly targeted towards the private sector. Now, the other grants that will come later, there will be a possibility to have public sector involvement that would receive grants through research, through extension services. So that would be a possibility. Right now, to start this project, we targeted what we could call the big players that could work with maximum of farmers. That's a little bit the idea behind it.
Thank you for the answer.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Director. That's the Director of Crop Services, MOFA. Okay. I have some questions on the chat, which will project.
Yeah, they will apply based upon the answer he gave.
One question, somebody is asking for, okay, just a moment, it's loading. So someone is asking for a further explanation on the role of tree crop in the program.
All right, that's a good question. We are envisioning a partnership with them to develop a large national company that will be capable to provide millions of trees, not just cashew, but also on other like cocoa and other crops. So to do that, they will have to work closely with the research institutions in Ghana and work with the MOFA, but also the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Trade, and see if there is a junction with their proposal and what we think would be best for the country, how to support what is already doing MOFA and the research institute. So when they will be signed, we're gonna come and sit with you and discuss how we can do something at, I would say, another level of scale, because I think there is a lot of potential, and they are offering something that is interesting. So I don't want to say too much right now. They're still not signed, so we're clearly expecting to develop a strong proposal with them that will be aligned a little bit with what you are doing. We cannot think that this program or Tree Global subcontractor will have the same approach in Ghana, where you already are very advanced in the multiplication and the grafting and the science banks, than what Nigeria could do, where they are kind of not at the same level. And still the case for each country has its own specifics. So we'll try to develop something and work with you to get something that is strong and will support the sector. So this is a bit what I would like to say on the role of Tree Global. What I would like to say is that they've done in Cameroon a partnership with the government, and they developed 5 tree station, and they are working with the government to really expand dramatically the number of trees that are planting each year. So that will change Cameroon in a couple of years. And we think that there's an opportunity also to for the old West African trees, orchard in the cashew sector to rejuvenate and expand. So yeah. So Mr. Seth Osi Akuto, I would we will come back to you.
Jean, so the next question is, what is the role of research institutions who are into cashew varietal development in this project?
Yeah, in this project, their role are very important. So right now they have this Zion banks. They are looking at the mother trees, and there's also already a multiplication of planting material. So in Ghana, we will work with these institutions. We cannot say that it will be apart. It will not work. So it will be a joint effort, a kind of PPP with the government and all its entities, or it will not work. So we understand that we'll work with you, or it will not work. So we'll try to find ways to make sure that we're adding values and that we're bringing a proposal that will, I would say, give work to all the private sector nurseries and people in this specific value chain. So that's a little bit my thinking.
Thank you very much, Jean. So the next question is, how can a farmer access these grants?
Well, let me go back first to the second question a little bit more. So perhaps Tree Global will say, hey, we would like to work with you to buy or a number of trees, or we would like to start new research on a new way of doing the multiplication of the trees, like Nestle is doing in some areas. So, you know, there will be a multiple level of collaboration that will be looked for. And as I mentioned, there will be also potentially when new grants that are coming that will you will be capable to tap in also. All right, so how can a farmer access this grant? A farmer cannot access this grant. This extension grant, it's mostly for the processing factory right now. But we introduced in the first PowerPoint presentation the project. In the second PowerPoint presentation, the 4 type of grants that will be added. So this is one. There will be others, and we're thinking to launch that in a couple of months based on the funding availability. This is our constraint. But as soon as we will be having this funding confidence, we will launch the other grants, and then farmer as a group would be capable to apply to for planting material for honeybees around the farms, for whatever innovative and or even developing their company with equipment to help farmers to do the pruning each year, things like that. So there will be a couple of possibilities around the improvement of the production, and also eventually some farmer that are trader, exporter could decide to develop a warehouse and increase quality for the processing factory or exporter to have a better product, then meaning more also money through the premium. All right. 4, how does a seedling operator benefit from the grant? All right, so that will be specifically one of the grant, and they will be able to apply directly. So that's direct. There's potentially a grant for them. We're thinking that a seedling operator could be a seedling operator, but also perhaps could decided to become a more broad businesses and providing other services to the farmers. So a kind of farms services center. That would be really pleasing us. Some are already doing that. So 5, can an individual farmer apply or as an association? Both options are open, not for this specific grant, but for the other grants that will come. If it's an individual farmer, he needs to be strong because in part we are asking to cost share. So you need to show that you're capable as an individual to do this cost sharing and to fill a mission that will be, in a sense, collective, offering services and things like that. But yes, it's possible. Or you're having your own farm and you would like to increase the number of trees and you're already in contract and relationship with the processing factory. Well, this will be then very possible. Yeah. Now, I would say that on all those questions, they are all valid. And what we're doing right now is to start the program with these large grants. But we're sure that we'll get more money and we'll do a much more number of grants for all type of work. So this is just the first grant, and it's only the start of the program.
Thank you, Jean, for the explanations and answers to the questions. We have some people that would like to ask questions directly to you. And the first person we have here is F. Miller. F. Miller, if you would please unmute and ask your question. Hello, Miller, can you hear me?
F. Miller 3.
Okay, while we wait for Miller to get ready, there's another person whose hand is up.
I just unmute now. Mr. Miller?
Okay, great.
Okay, Mr. Miller.
Great. My question, thank you very much for the presentation. It's very helpful. I'm an agricultural specialist and a technical advisor to the Ministry of Food and Agriculture in Ghana. But I work with quite a few countries, and I guess my question is rooted in, given the spread of the 5 countries, perhaps you can give some insights, because there's big competition between all of the different countries, Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana being one of them, and given that the price of cashew has fallen, how do you see assisting with the grants and enabling all countries to benefit in this scenario by having greater market access and greater productivity, but producing a value-added product, which is really at the core of really being able to tap in to raising more money for your business operations? Maybe you can give some insights into that, because of balance spread across West Africa and the competitive elements involved in market access globally, be it into the States or Europe or wherever you sell.
Well, thank you, sir. Very good question. Well, I cannot speak for USDA themselves, but in my mind, right now, globally, West Africa, they are processing less than 10% of the production. So, if we those who are processing half cut, just on peel, and sending that to Vietnam and India, it's not really a full added value. So those who are doing the kernel, there are very few companies, and this has to change. If you want to have more competitiveness in West Africa, we need to add value and bring more value and revenue to the farmers and also to the processing factory. And at the same time, it's going to the government too. So right now you see most of the production going to Vietnam and India, and it's processed there. They're adding the value, and you have West Africa to have a very low capacity of or control over the production. So this is not something new and specific to the cashew sector, but all governments are, or a couple of governments, I would say a strategy of getting up to 50% of processing in agriculture to be a game changer, or at least have a voice into this world price or production, like they do in cocoa, coffee, they would like to do in cotton. So it's the same shift of competitiveness that we would like to see. So USDA is thinking that by promoting the West African processing cashew, the trade will increase with Europe and with the United States. It will benefit at the end the farmers in West Africa, but they are buying also the kernel. So buying it from a closest source, the continent is much closer to Europe and the United States, and you have a higher traceability when you are buying locally. And what we're doing is exactly in this idea of increasing traceability between farmers and the processing factory through these market linkages and supply chain. So this business relationship eventually will support the full traceability, and the Vietnamese cannot do that. They are buying everywhere in Africa, and they are processing without knowing where it's coming from. So there's a big advantages potentially that is there, and this is the new trend, and this is why ProCashew is there to support this new trend in processing. So mainly, if we can increase a little bit the processing in all the countries, it's just a shift from the market from buying from Vietnam. They will buy. Everybody is waiting to have companies in West Africa and to buy the product from them. So of course they are asking HACCP certification, BRC certification, and ACA is showing that there's the FSMA US rules that are there. So all this is what is the market requirement. So as soon as you have companies that will do that, everything is sold out before starting.
Yes, I'm aware. Thank you very much, Jean. I guess the question is, given the competitive element in West Africa and this grant program, I'm trying to figure out the balance across the countries so that no country feels slighted that one is getting more than the other because of the amount of grant being awarded across the 5 countries and all competing for that global space. And so that's the one question. The second part of my question is, when do you think the other USDA project that you mentioned will come online for processing factories?
Okay. Well, let me. Your question is it's very good, Mr. Miller. We're working with the private sector. We cannot ask. It has to be driven by private sectors. Sometimes the government can do some policy and enhancements and support so that new companies could invest in the country. But at the end of the day, those who are processing the raw cashew nuts should be private sector entities, and we're working where they are. And right now, there's a lot of new companies that are popping up in Côte d'Ivoire. We would hope that perhaps Ghana would develop some incentives to generate more investments, but also it's coming with the size of the production. You know, with the low level of production in Ghana, you cannot attract very large factories. So this is why in the last couple of years, you saw MOFA to put in phases and tree plantings, and this is good thinking. It's going in the good direction, but this is not short-term transition. It will take a little bit of time. Now, the other USDA project, the bid was closing last week, and they usually take 6 months, perhaps a little bit before to find and to sign a contract with the winner. So I'm thinking that in 2021 we will see who is the winner, and it takes another 6 months to get up and running. So, but
Thank you very much.
This new project will be mostly working with the processing factory on financing, on technical assistance, training staff, things like that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you very much, Mila. Thank you, Jean, for the clarification. We have another question here from Zakaria. Zakaria, if you are ready, you may ask your question now.
Hello.
Please, can you hear me?
Good afternoon once again.
Good afternoon. Please go ahead. We can hear you.
Zakaria Mohammed Amin Natek from North Gonja district of Savannah region.
Can you please amplify a bit?
Okay. Hello.
Yes, hello.
Can you hear me clear?
It's
Yeah.
okay.
Is it clear?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay. All right. My question is, what are some of the requirements in assessing the grants as an individual farmer or an association? Thank you.
Well, you know, this grant has specific criteria, and we mentioned them in the presentation, and these are the criteria for the factories. Now, for the farmers, the farm organization, we didn't develop them yet, but mostly it will require that you are registered to the government as a company, as a farm, as an association, as a cooperative, and you know, as a trader, and that you are hopefully having some financial statements or earning statement that you could show. I would say that these are the criteria. Now, of course, if you're applying for a grant, it means that you have the 50%. So that's a quite important criteria also. But some of our grants will be small, 25,000, exactly to match the capacity of a small farmer organization. So we want to be open and be capable to have a broad reach.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jan. There's no hand up again. Maybe we could ask if somebody else has something to ask, or does anybody have a question? I can't see any hand again. Okay, I think we should wrap it up now, Jan. So maybe we can inform everybody again on the deadline. We will again share with each and every participant the RFA. And next week, Wednesday, which should be the 21st. If you have a question, we have another session next week, Wednesday, to answer your question. So we'll share with you the RFA and then the form. Study it, and if you have a question, we'll have a follow-up on Wednesday, the 21st, to answer all your questions. And I still see nobody has a question, so I think we probably should end the session.
Yeah, that's very good.
There's a hand that just came up now. ITEL P32. Please, you may ask your question. Oh, there's another one as well. P30.
Hello.
Yes, hello, we can hear you.
You said the RF, please, will it be sent through our emails or where?
Yes, it will be shared through your emails. That is why we've asked that every participant should please drop their name, organization, and email in the chat. We are picking it up. So if you drop your details, we'll send you the RFA.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Victor, I see your hand is up. Do you have a question?
Hello.
Yes, go on, we can hear you.
Yeah. Hi, John. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go on.
Great. This is Victor from Fludo. So I'm basically present in Ghana, and I'm coming from a company where we have a factory itself in Benin. And now we are thinking opportunity to, see whether we can present ourselves specifically in the processing in other countries like IBC, Ghana, and Nigeria itself. But kind of scenario is in Ghana, like what you have told is very correct, that the production itself is very low compared to all these 4 countries, and the companies which are present here in Ghana, like UC Brass or Mim Cashew, are also struggling. So what is your viewpoint? Like, is it very feasible to go and do kind of a business in Ghana itself for processing as such? Any kind of feasibility study has been done in that basis?
Mr. Ganguly, thank you very much for your question. I'm not a cashew expert, so I would not be capable to answer your question. I'm thinking that you have more capacity. You're just asking my gut feeling. So yes, you're right. But I'm happy that Fludo is thinking of other countries. It could be developing partnership with farmers to increase their buying capacity.
Right.
So we're open to this kind of partnership. There's I think a well-done small factories, well-managed, could find its way in Ghana easily, a couple of them.
Sure.
But not the big one of 30, 40,000 metric ton. This is, I think, everybody understand that this is not where we would see.
Okay.
That is possible in Nigeria and Cote d'Ivoire.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Thank you. Thank you, John.
All right.
Thank you, John. We have another question from Galaxy A8 2016. Please go on Galaxy A8 and speak.
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead. Hello, please unmute so that we can hear you.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you now.
All right. Good morning and good morning to all the participants too.
Good
This
morning.
is Johnson from Cash, Ghana. All right, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead with the question.
Okay, right. Yeah, I wanted to ask the host to please share all the what do you call it, the meeting agenda with us on your email. Some of us we joined a little bit later, and we did not get the meeting from the onset. So if the link that we provided, the email that we provided, can serve as link so that we can get the full content of the meeting, we'll be very, very happy.
Thank you very much for asking the question or for your consent. So we have this video, this session on our YouTube page and also on Facebook. But we will still share the link to everybody that participated. That is why we are asking that you drop your email addresses so that we can share the link to you. We have a record of this session and we'll share it with you. So if you can just share with us your email address in the chat.
All right, thank you very much.
So we'll send you the presentations, the link to the session, as well as the RFA. Prince, I see your hand is up. Do you have a question? Hello, Prince.
Yeah, hello?
Yes, please go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My question is, I was wondering if this project is strictly bounded to the regional zones you have picked for in Ghana, or can we make exceptions based on impact?
Jean, please, did you get the question?
Yes, I got the question. So specifically, you're talking about the different region of Ghana. So you're saying that your region is not part of the initial map that you saw? Is that what you're saying? Prince, I'm trying to understand your question. Well, if you're not responding to this question, I would say that it's possible, but you need to develop the partnership with the farmers that are mostly up north of Ghana, where you find the cashew nuts. So that would be my concern.
Thank you, Jean, for the answer.
Oh, thank you.
Mila, I see your hand is up again. You want to ask a question. Can you please go ahead and ask your question? Mila, can you please go ahead and ask your question? Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, great. Sorry, you had me on mute. I have market share. One of the biggest problems I know in the cashew sector is the fact that well, first of all, the bottom fell out in a lot of ways for whole nut cashew and for processed cashew. There's some issues there, but market access is a big issue. And I have a tremendous market, and I'm looking for suppliers. So my concern or my question is there assistance for suppliers to actually move this volume of nut that should be available as a result of this program? Is there technical assistance that can be provided to building that market access side of the equation?
Yeah, I would say yes. I would say yes, but to unlock the market, the main point is to get certification HACCP and BRC. As soon as you're doing that, it's buyers that will run after you with your kernel.
I'm fully aware. I actually used to do the certifications for the Animal Plant Health Inspection Service for the U.S. government. So I know from top to bottom how to do the certifications in any event. So I'm very happy with doing that. BRC has to ISO 22000, the whole bit. So, yeah. But thank you very much for that. I do appreciate it, because the market access component seems to be the most troubling piece, along with the processing. And once we have adequate processes, I think we'll be moving in the right direction. So I'm very happy to participate on the processing side, but also helping with the certification process and getting market access for these goods from West Africa. But thank you very much. I'm just pleased to hear that you have technical assistance in that regard, because that sticks out to me heavily.
All right, so chip an email if you want to discuss more about that.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we have exhausted all questions, and I think everybody's okay. So we'll now end the session. I would like to remind us again that we'll have another session on the 21st. That's next week, Tuesday. So study the FRA, study the form, the application form, and if you have any question, we'll be here again next week, Tuesday, to answer all your questions. If you haven't dropped your email address in the chat, please drop it in the chat so that we can send you all the documents and further exchange with you before the 21st. Okay? The link is still available on YouTube, on ACA, Facebook, and we'll still send it to you via mail. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Olivier. So we'll continue with the other countries, in Nigeria and Cote d'Ivoire. Nigeria is on Wednesday and Cote d'Ivoire is on Friday. But then a follow-up session, like I just said, will be repeated on Tuesday to answer all your questions. So please study the RFA, study the application form. If you have any question, we'll have answers to them next week, Tuesday, 21st. We'll communicate to you. Please drop your email address so that we can get in touch with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Blessing, and thank you all for the time that you took to know better ProCashew and this project. And this is the first event. There will be others, so thank you, and it's just the beginning.